All right, let's start the class. So we are on to volume 2. That's from where we started our discussion. So now it will be volume 2, chapter number 8. Chapter number 8 is industry and infrastructure. Chapter name, industry and infrastructure. Now, industrial sector, it's expected to contribute 26% to GDP for the year 2021. And this contribution to GDP of industrial sector, it has been continuously decreasing. Okay, remember this, that since the year 2012, it has been consistently decreasing every year as compared to last year. In the year 2012, the contribution of industrial sector to GDP was 32.5%. And from 2012 to 2021, this is financial year 2021, financial year 2012. So when I say financial year 2021, it means the year 2021. So when I say financial year 2012, it means year 11-12. So starting from 11-12 to 2021, it has been continuously decreasing. And the fall it has been, okay, if I talk about industries, it comprises the following subsectors: manufacturing, mining and quarrying, electricity, and construction. So these are the various subsectors in the industrial sector. Okay. So I told you that contribution to GDP has been decreasing. So contribution to GDP has been decreasing for all the sectors except this, except electricity. This is the complete name: electricity, gas, water supply, and other utility services. Other utility services. Rather, in the year 2021, it was only this sector which was positive in nature. Only this sector had positive growth rate. Overall industrial sector in the year 2021 fell by around 10%. There was decrease of 10% in the GDP contribution by the industrial sector. So the industrial sector shrank by 10%. The biggest shrinking happened in the sector, in the mining sector. Mining and construction both, they decreased by 12%, 12.5%. But this sector, this subsector, it witnessed a positive growth rate. Then, if I talk about the index of core industries, so we know There are 8 core industries, right? There are 8 core industries. The 8 core industries are electricity generation, steel production, petroleum refinery production, or petroleum refinery products, you may say anything, crude oil production, coal production, cement production, natural gas, and fertilizers. So see this, in this 8 core industries, 1, 2, 3, and 4, they are energy. All right. Petroleum refinery products, crude oil, coal, and natural gas. 4 are energy. 1 is steel. Then is electricity generation, cement, and fertilizers. All right. So if you have to remember it like, first is for energy which we need. Then from energy we'll get electricity. From electricity we will need steel and cement to start a factory. And then we will also need fertilizers. So these are 8 core industries. In these 8 core industries, the biggest contribution in the biggest weightage is from petroleum refinery products, which is 28%. And after petroleum refinery production, the second contribution is of electricity generation, which is around 20%. The lowest contribution is coming from fertilizer sector, which is 2.63%. And these core industries, all these core industries, they together have a weightage of 40.27% in IIP. So in the index of industrial production, the 8 core industries, they are providing 40.2% of the weightage. So why I'm discussing all this here is because the 8 core industries, they witnessed an all-time least growth of 38%. Witnessed an all-time low growth of minus 38% due to the COVID-19 situation. All right. Now, if I talk about IIP, then we can break down the components of IIP. We can break down the components of IIP in 2 ways. One is as per the sector, and one is as per use-based classification. Use-based classification. So sector-wise, it is mining, manufacturing, electricity. All right. Mining, manufacturing, and electricity. If we go, and in this case, the biggest weightage is of manufacturing, which is 77.6%. Then it is mining sector, 14.4%. and electricity is 8% in the IIP. If I go by use-based classifications, we have primary goods, capital goods, intermediate goods, infrastructure or say construction, consumer durables, and consumer non-durables. In this, the biggest weightage is of primary goods. That is 4%. Second weightage of intermediate goods, 17%. And minimum weightage is of capital goods, which is 8%. Then let's come to PSUs or CPSEs. Now, the government has been taking measures to reduce its presence in CPSEs. And to do that, government is focusing two routes. One is stock market route. So government is reducing its shareholding in CPSUs. One is through stock market route, where the government is bringing IPOs and FPOs of CPSUs. And other thing it is doing is strategic sale. So in strategic sale, for example, strategic sale of Air India. So here government will be selling a part of its shareholding in Air India to suppose Indigo. So share will also be given. Along with that, management control will also be given. So in these shares will not be open for general public. These shares will be allotted only to Indigo. Suppose it is Indigo. All right. So there are two ways by which the government is reducing its stake in CPSEs. Now, last year the government has decided that government will reduce its participation in CPSEs and will keep its presence only in strategic sector. All right, that is the PSUs which are present in the strategic sector, only in those sectors, only in those PSUs, the government will retain certain minimum shareholding. I'm not saying in those sectors government will not sell its shares. Only the PSUs, so the PSUs which are present in the strategic sector, in those PSUs, government will keep a bare minimum of shareholding. And for the non-strategic sector, the PSUs will be totally privatized. All right. For non-strategic sector, the PSUs will be totally privatized. Now, there are 4 strategic sectors which have been identified. The 4 strategic sector is first for, I'll write it on the next page. First strategic sector is for national security. So the domain, it's not the strategic sector. The domain of first strategic sector is national security. In the sector present, so here it will be the domain. And here it will be the sector. The sector for national security are atomic energy, space, and defense. The other domain is critical infrastructure. So for critical infrastructure, we have transport and telecom. Third domain is energy. Energy and minerals. The sectors which we have here are power, petroleum, coal, and other minerals. And the fourth one is financial services. And financial services will have banking, insurance, and other financial services. All right. And even in these strategic sectors, government will keep just 4 PSUs. The 4 strategic sectors, and government will keep four PSUs. And the other PSUs, they will be either they will, so if there are like suppose 5 or 6 PSUs in this, all right. So what they'll do is they'll merge all 5 or 6 in one big PSU. So 4 PSUs will be kept and other will be either merged into this or they will be privatized. All right. Now, so this is one thing that we are focusing on, privatization of PSUs. But the PSUs which will be retained, the CFC PSUs which will be retained, for them the government has brought certain reforms. And the first focus in that case will be revamping the boards. All right. So whatever CPSUs, I told you most of the CPSUs will be privatized, but whatever CPSUs will be retained, they will, for them, there are certain reforms will be brought. The first reform will be the boards of them will be revamped, where what will happen in revamping? There will be reorganization of the structure of the board. Reorganization of structure of the board. At the same time, there will be increase in operational autonomy. There will be increase in operational autonomy along with strong governance standards will be brought. Strong governance standards will be brought. What are strong governance standards? We will be listing them on stock exchanges. So their IPOs will be brought. They will be listed on the stock exchanges. Along with that, the Department of Public Enterprises, it has initiated the revamping of performance monitoring system of PSUs. All right, so this is one thing. CPSUs will be retained for them. There will be revamping of the boards. This will be given to them. Along with that, other reforms of which they have done is the Department of Public Enterprises. It has focusing on, it is revamping the performance monitoring system of CPSUs, and along with that, there will be steps will be taken. Steps will be taken for timely closure of sick PSUs. Timely closure of sick and loss-making PSUs. All right. Next. Currently, there are 366 CPSEs. Out of them, 256 are operational. And out of them, 171, they made a profit. One, it was in no profit, no loss. And 84, they made a loss. All right. Now, if I talk about overall net profit of PSUs, overall net profit of CPSEs, Central Public Sector Enterprises, the overall net profit is reduced by 35% in 1920 as compared to 1819. So obviously, because of COVID-19, the profit in 2021 would have reduced further. All right, that was about CPSEs. Next is about ease of doing business. Ease of doing business. India's rank in the year 2019 was 63 out of 190 countries. The rank was 77 in 2018. And India's position in the year 2019, India's position has improved in 7 out of the total 10 indicators. And India is in the top 10 improvers. India is in the top 10 improvers, and India has come out in the top 10 improvers for the third time in a row, for the third consecutive year. All right. So if I talk about ease of doing business, India's rank in the year 2009 was 133 and remained around 133, 132 like this till 2013. Then it went drastically down in 2014 to 142. You remember that was the time of policy paralysis and all. So it went to 142 in 2014. In 2016, it was still 130. Starting from 2017, we are improving. Where in 2017, we got to 100, 18, we got to 77, 19, we got to 63. So we have improved in the last 3 years. All right. Out of the 10 indicators, India is not doing good in 4 indicators. In 4 indicators, we have a lot of scope. First is enforcing contracts. In enforcing contracts, India's rank is 163, and even the score is also very less. We will not get into how much score that is. Score is also very less. First is enforcing contracts. Registering property. Here also India's rank is 154. Score is also less. Then is paying taxes. In paying taxes, India's rank is 115, but the score is high. It means other countries they are doing better on this front. And the last parameter is starting a business. Here our rank is 136. Score is also high. So these are the 4 parameters where we still need to improve and where we can improve a lot. All right. And India's rank, the best India's rank is 13, which is in the parameter investors protection. Investors protection. All right. Then let's move to FDI. If we talk about FDI, in the year 1920, the total FDI which we received was $50 billion. We had received in 1819 $44 billion. These are not talking about the industrial sector, I'm talking about everything. And this total $50 billion which came to us, a bulk of it came in non-manufacturing sector. A bulk of it came in non-manufacturing sector. And if I talk about manufacturing, when I say non-manufacturing means services and all. But when I say manufacturing sector, in manufacturing sector, the FDI it came in the following sectors: automobile, telecom, metallurgical, non-conventional energy, chemical, this is except fertilizers. Food processing, and petroleum and natural gas. And all of them, they contributed to 67% of total FDI which came in the manufacturing sector. All right, so whatever the total FDI came in manufacturing sector, 67% came in these sectors only. If I talk about steel sector, now India is the second largest producer after China. Second largest producer after China. And India is also the second largest consumer. But if I talk about per capita finished steel consumption, talk about per capita finished steel consumption, in India's case, it was just 74.7 kilogram in the year 1920. Global average is 229. All right. Next is coal. Now, coal, it accounts for 55%. 55% of India's total energy 55% of India's total energy requirement is met from coal. In the year 1920, we produced 729 million tons of coal. The number is not important. Point is, as compared to 1819, this was just 0.05% increase. It means there is no demand of coal in the economy. There is no demand of electricity in the economy because there was slowdown. Next is very important, MSMEs. Now, MSMEs, we have around 6 crore MSMEs in India, which employ around 11 crore of people. 11 crore people are employed. MSMEs, they contribute 30% of GDP. And contribute around 50% to India's exports. Look, MSMEs, they are present in manufacturing sector as well as in services sector. All right. Now, last year, the important thing which happened was that government it changed the definition of MSMEs. So if I talk about the earlier definition, for earlier, what was happening is there was separate definition of MSMEs for manufacturing sector and for services sector. And till last year or the earlier definition was based on just investment. So micro, small, and medium. So manufacturing sector definition earlier was, in manufacturing sector, if the investment is less than 25 lakhs, it is a micro enterprise. If the investment is between 25 lakhs to 5 crores, it is small. And if it is above 5 crores and below 10 crores, it's a medium enterprise. In services, if the investment is less than 10 lakh rupees, micro, 10 lakh to 2 crores, it was small, and 2 crores to 5 crores, you can also write it here, 5 crore to 10 crore. It was medium. Now, thing is, government it provides a lot of tax benefits to MSMEs. So therefore, to get those tax benefits, And the tax benefits are more for micro, less for small, and further less for medium. And below that, there are hardly any tax benefits. So a micro enterprise would not like to get into a small enterprise because its incentives will go down. A small enterprise would not invest and get into a medium one because its incentive will go down, and a medium enterprise would not like to get out of the category of MSMEs because its total incentives will go down. So the earlier definition of MSMEs, which was based on investment, it was hindering investment in MSME sector, which was leading to dwarfism in the sector. Dwarfism in the sector means the companies were old, but the number of employees they were employing, they were very less. The amount they were contributing to GDP, that was very less. So what is dwarf? A person who is old enough, but the height is less. Similarly, what is a dwarf MSME in which the age of the MSME is high, or the age is big, but the contribution to revenue, the contribution to employment is less. That is called dwarfism. And the dwarfism was happening because there was no investment in the MSMEs happening. And why there was no investment happening in MSMEs? Because if the investment was happening, then the incentives given to them would be taken away. So therefore, and a lot of committees have been set up. A lot of committees have been set up earlier. A lot of like parliamentary standing committees. They have told that we should not go, that we should change the definition of manufacturing sector. We should change the definition of MSMEs. This MSMEs, they are decided as per 2006 Act. MSME 2006 Act has given this definition. After that, a lot of standing committees they have been set up and they have recommended that we should change the definition. But this was done last year in the year 2020. Look, it's that last year it was done, but it is not that it was thought of last year. All right, even RBI expert committee was set up in the year 2019, which said we should change the definition. So last year was just used as a time frame to change the definition. So what is the new definition? So under the new definition, first, manufacturing and services sector, MSMEs, they are clubbed together. There is no separate definition for manufacturing sector MSME and services sector MSME. Other thing, now the definition is based on investment as well as turnover. If both these categories are met, then only the definition is complete. For example, in manufacturing and services sector, to be a micro enterprise, the investment, it has to be less than of 1 crores, and turnover should be less than 5 crores. So if both categories are met, then only it is a micro enterprise. Now, another reason for changing the definition was these definitions were given in the year 2006, and now it is in the year 2020. Because of inflation, a lot of things have changed. So whatever was the value of 25 lakh rupees at that time, now it's not the value. Money has lost its value. All right. So because of inflation, because of less investment in them, the definition was changed. So now micro enterprises, if the investment is less than 1 crore and turnover is less than 5 crore, then it is a micro enterprise. For small, investment more than 1 crores and up to, and say less than 10 crores. So more than 1 crores, less than 10 crores investment, and turnover should be more than 5 crores and less than 50 crores. Medium enterprise, investment should be greater than 10 crores, less than 20 crores, turnover more than 50 crores and less than 100 crores. So this is the new definition of medium enterprises. as has been given last year by the government. All right. Now let's move to next sector, that is textile sector. So textile and apparel. For textile and apparel sector together, they contribute 2% to overall GDP. And they contribute 11% to manufacturing sector GVA. And they provide employment, both direct and indirect. Both direct and indirect employment is provided to 10.5 crore people. And it is the second largest employment generator after agriculture. Second largest employment generator after agriculture. The biggest contribution of textile and apparel sector is that a large amount of workforce is women. Rather major part of its workforce is women. Hence this sector, it contributes a lot to women empowerment. All right. Then the government brought 10 key sectors. 10 key sectors under performance linked incentive scheme. So under performance linked incentive schemes, government brought 10 key sectors. Those sectors are advanced cell chemistry battery, advanced cell chemistry battery, electronic or technology products, automobiles and auto components, pharmaceutical drugs, telecom and networking products, textile products, food products, high efficiency solar photovoltaic cells, solar photovoltaic modules, white goods, that is AC and LED, and specialty steel. And what is the benefit of performance linked incentive scheme? It will provide the following benefits. First is it will make our manufacturers globally competitive. It will increase the competitiveness of Indian manufacturers. It will attract investment and will bring better technology. It will increase efficiency. It will create economies of scale. It will increase exports. It will provide a conducive manufacturing ecosystem. And it will also make India a part of global supply chains, global value chains or global supply chains. Next is about infrastructure. Now, government has launched the National Infrastructure Pipeline for the time period of 2020 to 25 for a period of 5 years. The financial year 20 to financial year 25, that is, it means till the year 2024-25. Again, the benefits will be same. It will be boosting the economy, it will be increasing the employment, it will increase the competitiveness, it will increase the exports, all those things. Here, it will be funded by center as well as states as well as private enterprises. The center is contributing 39%. States contributing 40% and private enterprises contributing 21%. It will bring a total investment of 111 lakh crores in the infrastructure sector, which is approximately $1.5 trillion. The sectors being focused are energy. Because the maximum projects are in the energy sector only. Other sectors are energy, roads, urban infrastructure, and railways. Energy, roads, urban infrastructure, and railways. You need to understand one thing. In India's case, whatever investment in infrastructure happens, it is happening through PPP route. And government has set up an appraisal committee called PPP Appraisal Committee for the appraisal of PPP projects in the central sector. Next is road sector. Now, the transport sector, it has contributed to 4.6% to GVA. You can say around GDP also. 4.6% of GVA in the year 1920, in the year 1890. And in this 4.6%, 67% came from the road sector. The total length of roads in India is 63.86 kilometers. India is at number 2. Number 1 country with maximum number of roads is US, which has 66 lakh kilometers. 63.86 lakh kilometers. Now, in 2014-15, we were constructing roads at the pace of 12 kilometers per day. All right. And that number it increased to 30. In the year 18-19, we were constructing 30 kilometers of roads every day. It came down in 1920 because of slowdown. It came to 28. And in 2021, because of COVID-19, it came to 22. but we have improved a lot as compared to 14-15. Then is civil aviation. So now India is the third largest civil aviation market. All right. The total number of fleet or total number of flights which India has is 713. That's the fleet strength which India has. 713. If I talk about ports, they handle 95% of India's cargo by volume and 68% by value. Railways and other things about ports I have already told you in the important data chapter. All right. Now, next is telecom sector. Now, if I talk about wireless telephones, that is mobiles, they constitute 98.3% of total subscriptions or total subscribers. And landline, they are just 1.7% of total subscriber now. The tele density in India is 86%. That is out of 100 people, 86 people have mobile. Tele density is 86.6. In rural areas, it is 59%. In urban areas, it is 139%. The total number of internet subscribers in India are 776.45 million. Average wireless data consumption per subscriber per month. It's wireless, not broadband. Wireless data used by per subscriber per month, it is 12 GB. And the cost of data for us is rupees 10 per GB. All right. Then we come to petroleum and natural gas. Now, India is the third largest consumer of electricity after US and China. Third largest consumer. India's share in total world's consumption is 5.8%. And India's energy consumption is dominated by coal and crude oil. Now, India's domestic production was just 32 million metric tons. It actually reduced. It reduced in the year 1920 as compared to 1819, where in 1819 we produced 34 million metric tons. So whatever we are producing, 32 or 34, the biggest contribution is coming from ONGC, which contributes 64% of total production. Second is 9.7%, which is coming from Oil India Limited, OIL. And 26% is coming through production sharing contracts of PPPs. You remember, we have discussed in HELP and NEL, production sharing contract, it comprises 26%. And similarly, if I talk about natural gas production, 76% was from ONGC, then 8% from Oil India Limited, and 15% through production sharing contracts. Then let's come to power sector. I'll have to delete certain slides because that's the maximum number of slides which we reach. I'm starting from first number, all right? So if I talk about power sector, now the total generation capacity of India, is 373 gigawatts. And total installed capacity is 370 gigawatts. In this 373 gigawatts of generation capacity, 231 gigawatts is thermal, 46 gigawatts is hydro, 6.7 gigawatts is nuclear, 90 gigawatts is renewables. Now, in India's case, energy deficit, it has reduced. Energy deficit means how much is the energy supply and how much is the energy demand. So the gap between them is called energy deficit, and in India's case, energy deficit is reducing. And why is energy deficit reducing? Because of increase in energy efficiency. Increase in energy efficiency. There's one term associated with that. It is called energy intensity. Energy intensity. It means units of electricity or units of energy required to produce 1 unit of GDP or say 1 unit of output. So energy intensity is basically a measure of inefficiency. If energy intensity is high, it means the efficiency is less, because we are consuming more units of energy to produce 1 unit of output. So in India's case, energy intensity, it has improved. So energy intensity is lower the energy intensity, better it is. So India's energy intensity, it has reduced. All right, how much we need not require to do it. All right. All right. That completes your chapter on industries and infrastructure. All right, we'll continue in the next class with agriculture. All right. All right. That's it for today.
Thank you, sir.